Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 18 of 21. As I said in the earlier video, we're probably going to add a part 22 and part 23 to supplement this, but we're going to take a look back at what I wrote 1 year ago about the candidates who appeared in the first Democratic presidential primary debate, and we are now going to take a look at Elizabeth Warren, a senator from Massachusetts who entered the race on December 31st, 2018, and exited the race on March the 5th of 2020. This is what I wrote. Warren, a senator from Massachusetts, is the unquestioned star on night one. And if the Democrats place podiums based on polling, she will be center stage. Warren will receive the lion's share of attention and the most questions. If Warren uses her moment wisely, she can set the tempo for the next night. Warren is surging and really betting big on policy. She has a plan for that, has become the Warren version of hope and change and make America great again. It will be seen if that translates well to a debate stage. While I will cheer an actual debate of policy, it will bore most. Warren's attempts at seemingly relatable have come off as less than authentic attempts. It is a certainty she will be asked about credibility in relation to her claims of Native American heritage. Bottom line, Warren has the most to lose from a bad performance. She is surging and has a lot of wind in her sails. A bad debate performance could make all that for naught. Her recent rise in the polls will make the other candidates focus their attacks on her. She has to be ready for these attacks and respond forcefully yet tactfully as not to totally alienate those candidates' supporters. Just for a refresher, these are the participants in night one in alphabetical order. Senator Cory Booker, former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Julian Castro, Mayor Bill de Blasio, former Congressman John Delaney, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, Governor Jay Inslee, Senator Amy Klobuchar, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, Congressman Tim Ryan, and Senator Elizabeth Warren. So, that goes without saying, she was the unquestioned star on night one. The only candidate, in my opinion, that was even close to her in terms of star power was Senator Cory Booker, and to a lesser extent, former Congressman O'Rourke. She really, as I said, was betting big on policy. She has a plan for that. Really became an Elizabeth Warren rallying cry. And Elizabeth Warren's website had a ton of policy white papers out there. Although, if you dug down into some of them, they were a little dry, in my opinion, on some substance. But overall, they were white papers, and they did make policy arguments. Her campaign ran into some trouble when it was suggested that she didn't have a plan for that on how to pay for Medicare for all. And her plan, when it finally was presented, was criticized by some for how hopeful it was that some things would pass. I think that Elizabeth Warren's debate performances, most of the time, were good. She did have some bad debate performances. I will say that her the first debate in Las Vegas that Michael Bloomberg participated in was probably her best debate performance, where she took the basically the Thor hammer to Bloomberg and really, in my opinion, probably effectively ended his campaign on that night. All of it was over but the crying at that point. And Bloomberg never was able to recover from that. So she had a really interesting performance in that debate. I think it was a good performance. And of course, the South Carolina debate that followed that Las Vegas debate was a total train wreck in many ways, because that devolved into nothing more than a food fight. That was a debate in which a lot of raw, pent-up emotion between the candidates came out. Elizabeth Warren, as I said, dropped out on March 4th. She dropped out 2 days after Super Tuesday. She did not fare very well at all on Super Tuesday, and this followed a string of disappointing performances. She did not perform well at all in Iowa. She placed in 4th place in single digits in the state. New Hampshire, which borders her home state of Massachusetts, so she didn't get any delegates from there. She did very poorly in Nevada, and she did poorly in the state of South Carolina. And of course, on Super Tuesday was a train wreck for her. She even lost her home state of Massachusetts. So 2 days later, she assessed her campaign and ended the race. She did not endorse Senator Bernie Sanders and waited till Joe Biden was the presumptive nominee to endorse Biden. She is mentioned frequently by some as a potential vice president for Joe Biden. I don't believe she will be the vice presidential selection of Joe Biden. That would kind of shock me if she were, although I do believe she will be in a Biden cabinet. Most likely in an attorney general role, but very possibly in a Secretary of State role. I'm not really aware of Warren's expertise in foreign policy to this point, but Hillary Clinton really didn't have that much either when she entered Barack Obama's cabinet in 2009 as Secretary of State. Although I will say that even though I disagree with Secretary Clinton on a lot of issues, I think overall you can say that she was a good Secretary of State and did an honorable job. Not a great Secretary of State by any means, but also not a bad Secretary of State. When I think of great Secretaries of State, I think of people like you go back and you look at Hamilton Fish, George Shultz, Cordell Hull, John Marshall, and the like. So those are people that you think of when you think of just absolutely I'm sorry, not John Marshall, George Marshall. I was drawing a blank here. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Thomas Jefferson, even. Um, and it was Dean Acheson that I was thinking of as well. I knew I had two names there, but you get the sense. But I think she would be better suited for the Attorney General role. Is where I think Elizabeth Warren would be a great secretary in the cabinet. I think she'd be a good Attorney General. Um, so, I don't. I think there's an outside chance that she could be vice president, but I see that as a remote possibility. Um, it's also worth noting, though, that her and Biden had some quite confrontational moments in the past, and I think there are still some harborances of bad feelings there. Not enough to prevent her from voting for him for president or supporting his agenda, but I think that it might be a bridge too far for her to be his vice president. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great night.